The hidden guest. Alex Parker had always dreamed of escaping the chaos of the city. When his grandfather's mountain cabin was left to him in the will, it felt like the perfect opportunity to reset his life. Nestled deep within the wilderness, the cabin was supposed to offer solitude, peace, and an escape from endless deadlines and noise. However, as Alex drove up the winding dirt road, something about the place seemed off. The cabin came into view, standing tall against a backdrop of ancient pines. Its wooden exterior gleamed faintly in the golden afternoon light, but the front door was slightly ajar. Alex frowned, gripping the steering wheel tighter. His grandfather had always been meticulous about locking up. Probably the wind, Alex muttered, stepping out of the car. The air was crisp and carried the faint scent of pine and damp earth. He grabbed his backpack and toolbox, trudging up the steps. The creak of the wooden porch felt louder than it should have. Pushing the door open further, he stepped inside, and froze. The cabin wasn't as he had left it the last time he visited. The dusty furniture he remembered was clean, as if someone had been regularly wiping it down. A faint glow emanated from the kitchen, spilling into the darkened living room. Alex's heart began to race. "Hello?" he called out, his voice echoing through the quiet cabin. No response. Cautiously, he stepped further inside. The floorboards groaned under his boots. On the dining table, there were breadcrumbs, fresh ones. And then, there was the smell. It wasn't unpleasant, but strange, like a mix of ozone and flowers. The glow in the kitchen flickered. Alex rounded the corner, expecting to find a broken light bulb or maybe an animal that had gotten inside. Instead, he saw a thin, metallic strand snagged on the edge of the countertop. It shimmered faintly in the light, almost alive. "What the hell is this?" Alex murmured, holding it up to the light. It didn't feel like metal or fabric but something in between, warm and slightly elastic. Before he could ponder further, a thud upstairs made him jump. Alex instinctively reached for the heavy flashlight clipped to his belt. He climbed the staircase, each creak amplifying the tension in his chest. The hallway was dark except for a faint glow spilling out from the attic door. As he pushed it open, the glow vanished. The attic was empty, or so it seemed. Dust motes floated lazily in the beam of his flashlight, but something caught his eye. In the far corner of the room, a set of wooden crates had been shoved aside, and the window behind them was slightly open. Alex moved closer, scanning the area. That's when he noticed the footprints. They were unlike anything he'd ever seen, almost humanoid but longer and more slender. The marks led from the crates to the window, and then outside into the wilderness. "Who's there?" he demanded, leaning out of the window. His voice echoed, but the forest gave no answer. Suddenly, he caught movement. Something, or someone, darted between the trees, barely visible in the fading light. The figure was tall, unnaturally slender, and moved with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly. "Hey! Stop!" Alex shouted, scrambling back downstairs and out the door. He ran into the woods, flashlight bouncing as he followed the faint trail of broken branches and crushed leaves. He lost sight of the figure, but as he slowed, catching his breath, he felt eyes on him. Turning quickly, his flashlight caught a flash of violet, two glowing eyes watching him from behind a tree. "Who are you?" Alex asked, his voice trembling. The figure stepped back, disappearing into the shadows. Alex took a hesitant step forward. "Wait. Please." But they were gone. Only the eerie silence of the forest remained. When Alex returned to the cabin, his mind raced with possibilities. Someone, or something, was living here. But who? And why? He locked the doors that night, but sleep didn't come easily. As the hours passed, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't alone. Somewhere in the darkness, someone, or something, was watching. A mysterious encounter. The next morning, Alex awoke to the sound of scratching. He sat up quickly, his heart pounding, and listened intently. It wasn't coming from the door or the walls, it was beneath the cabin. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped outside. The sun had barely risen, and the forest was blanketed in a chilly mist. The scratching sound continued, faint but deliberate. Alex followed it to a patch of dirt near the back of the cabin. There, hidden under a pile of firewood, he noticed a trapdoor. He didn't remember his grandfather ever mentioning a cellar. Pulling the wood aside, he lifted the heavy, creaking door. A rush of cold air greeted him, carrying with it the strange, floral ozone scent he had noticed the day before. Alex hesitated for a moment, then descended the rickety wooden ladder into the darkness below. His flashlight beam revealed walls lined with smooth, metallic panels, not the rough stone or dirt he expected. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls, pulsating like they were alive. "What is this place?" he muttered, his breath fogging in the cold air. In the corner of the room, something shimmered. He stepped closer, and the beam of his flashlight fell on a figure huddled in the shadows. It was her. The woman from the woods. She was tall and willowy, her silvery blue skin glinting faintly in the light. Her long, dark hair flowed like liquid shadow, and her eyes, violet and luminous, were wide with fear. She clutched a strange device to her chest, cradling it like it was the most precious thing in the world. "Hey," Alex said softly, raising his hands to show he wasn't a threat. "I'm not going to hurt you." The woman flinched, her gaze darting between him and the ladder. She looked like she was ready to bolt at any moment. "It's okay," Alex continued, taking a cautious step closer. "You don't have to be afraid." She tilted her head, studying him. Then, to Alex's astonishment, she spoke. Her voice was soft, melodic, but the words were incomprehensible. I don't understand," Alex said, shaking his head. "Do you speak English?" The woman hesitated, then reached for a small, circular device attached to her wrist. She pressed a button, and the device emitted a series of beeps before her voice came through, now in English. "Who are you?" she asked, her tone wary. "I could ask you the same thing," Alex replied. "This is my cabin, or it was my grandfather's. Who are you? And what are you doing here?" The woman seemed to relax slightly, though her grip on the strange device in her arms remained firm. I didn't mean to intrude. I had no choice." "No choice?" Alex echoed. "What do you mean?" She looked away, her expression shadowed with pain. "I'm hiding. From them." "Them?" Alex pressed. "Who's them?" Before she could answer, a low, mechanical hum filled the air. The woman's eyes widened in panic, and she scrambled to her feet. "They're here," she whispered, her voice trembling. Alex turned toward the ladder, but the trapdoor above slammed shut with a loud thud. The humming grew louder, accompanied by the sound of something heavy moving above them. "What's going on?" Alex demanded, his voice rising. The woman grabbed his arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "No time to explain. We have to go." She led him deeper into the hidden chamber, where a small, circular hatch was embedded in the wall. She pressed her hand to it, and the door slid open, revealing a narrow tunnel. "Go," she urged. "Wait," Alex said, digging his heels in. "What's out there? Who's after you?" Her violet eyes locked onto his. "If we stay here, we'll both die. Please, trust me." The urgency in her voice left no room for argument. Alex swallowed hard and followed her into the tunnel. Behind them, the hum grew louder, joined by sharp, metallic clanging. As they fled through the darkness, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that his quiet life had just been shattered, and it was only the beginning. The alien secret. The tunnel seemed endless, winding deeper into the earth with each step. The walls shimmered faintly, glowing with the same alien symbols Alex had seen in the cellar. The strange woman led the way, her movements quick and purposeful, but Alex could tell she was exhausted. Finally, the tunnel opened into a small cavern. Crystals jutted out from the walls, casting a soft, bluish light across the space. The woman slumped against the far wall, clutching the strange device to her chest. "Okay," Alex said, his voice echoing slightly. "We're safe for now. But I need answers." She looked at him, her violet eyes filled with hesitation. "You shouldn't have followed me. You locked me in." Alex shot back. "What was I supposed to do? Now, tell me what's going on. Who are you? What are you hiding from?" The woman let out a shaky breath and finally sat down. "My name is Lira. I come from a planet far from here, one your kind hasn't discovered yet." Alex blinked, struggling to process her words. "You're an alien?" She nodded. "I was part of a team sent to explore this region of space. But my mission changed when I learned about the Raath." "The Raath?" Alex asked, sitting down cautiously. "They are conquerors," Lira explained, her voice laced with fear. "They destroy planets, strip them of resources, and enslave any survivors. When I discovered their plans for Earth, I knew I couldn't let it happen." Alex's stomach tightened. "You're saying Earth is their next target?" "Yes," Lira replied. She held up the device she had been protecting so fiercely. "This is why they're hunting me. It's a Raath artifact, a weapon capable of immense destruction. I took it from them, hoping to use it against them if they came here." Alex stared at the device. It was sleek and oval-shaped, with glowing lines running along its surface. It pulsed faintly, as if alive. "What does it do?" he asked. "It manipulates energy on a massive scale," Lira said. "If used correctly, it could wipe out an entire fleet, or an entire planet." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. "And they want it back." "They can't have it," Lira said firmly. "If they do, they'll use it to destroy your world." Alex ran a hand through his hair, trying to wrap his head around everything. "Okay, so you're hiding here to keep this thing safe. But why my cabin? Why didn't you just destroy it?" "I thought the cabin was abandoned," Lira admitted. "And as for destroying it, I tried. But the artifact is bound to its creator. Only they can destroy it. And now that I've taken it, it's bound to me." Alex's gaze shifted to the tunnel entrance. "So those drones and whatever else is out there, they're Raath?" Lira nodded. "They've been tracking me for weeks. They'll stop at nothing to get the artifact back." "And what happens if they find us?" Lira hesitated, her expression grim. "They'll kill me. And then they'll kill you." The weight of her words sank in like a stone. Alex leaned back against the wall, his mind racing. Just yesterday, he had been planning to relax in the quiet of the mountains. Now, he was sitting in a hidden cavern with an alien fugitive, hiding from a deadly enemy. "Okay," Alex said finally, his voice steady. "What's the plan?" "You have one, right?" Lira hesitated again, and Alex's stomach sank. "I was hoping to outrun them," she admitted. "But now that they've found this place." She didn't need to finish the sentence. Alex sighed, rubbing his temples. "Great. So, we're basically sitting ducks." "Not necessarily," Lira said, her tone shifting. "The artifact isn't just a weapon. It can be used to create barriers, even disrupt their tracking systems. But it requires energy, more than I can generate on my own." Alex's eyes narrowed. "You're saying you need help?" Lira nodded. "If we work together, we might have a chance. But it's dangerous." "Dangerous?" Alex said with a dry laugh. "My life's already dangerous, thanks to you. Might as well go all in." Lira looked at him, surprise flickering across her face. "You'd help me?" Alex shrugged. I don't really have a choice, do I? If these Raath guys want this planet, I'm not going to sit around and let them take it. For the first time, Lira smiled, a small, hesitant smile. Thank you. Their moment of calm was interrupted by a distant rumble. The ground trembled slightly, and a faint, mechanical hum filled the air. They found the tunnel, Lira said, her voice sharp with urgency. Alex stood, adrenaline flooding his system. What do we do? Lira clutched the artifact tightly. We fight. And we run. As the rumble grew louder, Alex felt a strange sense of resolve. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain, he wasn't about to let the Raath take his planet without a fight. The pursuit. The tremors grew stronger, and the faint hum from above turned into a mechanical roar. Dust rained down from the tunnel ceiling as Alex and Lira stood frozen for a moment, their eyes locking. They're coming, Lira said, her voice firm despite the fear in her violet eyes. Great, Alex muttered. What now? Do we have another secret tunnel, or do I just start throwing rocks at them? Lira shook her head, clutching the artifact to her chest. There's another way out, but it's risky. If they track us outside, we'll be exposed. Risky beats dead, Alex replied. Let's move. Lira led him down a narrower passageway that twisted and turned like a labyrinth. The glowing symbols on the walls dimmed as they went further, making it harder to see. Alex could barely keep up, his breath coming in short, sharp bursts. Behind them, the mechanical roar intensified, accompanied by the unmistakable sound of metal scraping against stone. They're in the tunnels, Lira whispered, glancing back. We need to hurry. As they rounded a corner, the passage opened into a larger cavern. A faint shaft of sunlight streamed through a crack in the ceiling, illuminating a narrow ledge that led to a jagged opening. That's the exit, Lira said, pointing. Alex eyed the ledge nervously. It was barely wide enough for one person, and the drop below was sheer and unforgiving. Of course it is, he muttered. Why couldn't it be a nice, flat hallway with a door at the end? Do you want to live or complain? Lira shot back, already stepping onto the ledge. Can I do both? Alex grumbled, following her. The ledge creaked under their weight, loose rocks tumbling into the abyss below. Alex's pulse pounded in his ears as he inched forward, his hands pressed against the wall for balance. Lira moved with more grace, her slender frame seeming almost weightless. Halfway across, a deafening crash echoed behind them. Alex glanced back to see a large, insect-like drone crawling into the cavern. Its metallic body gleamed in the dim light, and its glowing red sensors locked onto them. Lira? We've got company. Alex shouted. Lira turned, her eyes narrowing. Keep going. I'll handle it. What do you mean, you'll, Alex began, but Lira had already pulled the artifact from her satchel. She pressed her palm to its surface, and the glowing lines flared to life, casting the cavern in a blinding light. The drone let out a shrill, mechanical screech and fired a burst of energy from its core. Lira ducked, the beam scorching the wall above her. She aimed the artifact at the drone, and a wave of shimmering energy erupted from it, slamming into the machine. The drone staggered but didn't fall. Its legs clattered against the stone as it prepared to fire again. Lira, come on. Alex yelled, reaching the end of the ledge. She fired another burst of energy, then sprinted toward him as the drone struggled to recover. Just as she reached the opening, the ledge behind her crumbled, sending rocks cascading into the abyss. Alex grabbed her arm and pulled her through the opening as the drone's final shot blasted the cavern wall. The explosion sent a shockwave through the tunnel, and the entire structure began to collapse. They emerged into the open air, stumbling onto a narrow mountain path. The sunlight was blinding after the dim cavern, but there was no time to adjust. Keep moving. Lira urged, pulling Alex along as the ground beneath them shook. The path twisted through the dense forest, offering brief moments of cover as they ran. The sound of the drone's mechanical screeches echoed in the distance, growing louder with each passing second. Do these things ever give up? Alex panted, leaping over a fallen log. They won't stop until we're dead, Lira replied grimly. Great pep talk, Alex muttered, glancing over his shoulder. Through the trees, he spotted the drone emerging from the tunnel's remains. Its damaged body sparked and sputtered, but it was still functional, and fast. Lira, it's gaining on us. Lira skidded to a stop near a rocky outcrop. We can't outrun it, she said, turning to face the drone. We have to make a stand. You're kidding, right? Alex said, his eyes wide. Do you trust me? Lira asked, the artifact glowing in her hands. Alex hesitated, then nodded. Not really, but I don't have a better idea. Lira smiled faintly. Stay behind me. The drone crashed through the underbrush, its red sensors glowing like twin beacons of death. Lira raised the artifact, the glowing lines on its surface pulsating with energy. The air around them crackled as the artifact unleashed a shockwave of light and sound. The drone faltered, its movements erratic as the energy scrambled its systems. Now, Alex! Lira shouted. Alex didn't hesitate. He grabbed a large rock and hurled it at the drone's exposed core. The impact sent sparks flying, and the machine let out one final, distorted screech before collapsing in a heap of smoking metal. Breathing heavily, Alex turned to Lira. Please tell me that's the last one. It's not, Lira said, her tone grim. They'll send more. Alex ran a hand through his hair, trying to calm his racing heart. Then we need a better plan. Because I'm pretty sure I just used up all my luck back there. Lira nodded, her expression determined. We'll find a way. But we have to keep moving. As the forest grew quiet once more, Alex realized there was no turning back. His simple life was gone, replaced by a fight for survival, and he was only beginning to understand the stakes. The betrayal. Alex's legs were burning from the constant sprint through the forest, but there was no time to rest. Lira's pace didn't slow, her determination pushing her forward with the urgency of someone who had long since learned that survival meant never stopping. Alex was barely keeping up, his chest heaving as he ran behind her. After what felt like hours, they reached a small clearing with a hidden cave entrance carved into the mountainside. Lira stopped abruptly, scanning the area. This is it, she said, breathless but resolute. We can make our stand here. She pressed her palm against the cold stone, and the entrance slid open, revealing a dark interior. Alex followed her inside, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and something else he couldn't place. Inside the cave was more than just shelter. The walls were lined with technology, alien devices, screens, and control panels that hummed with faint energy. It felt like the heart of something much larger than just a hiding place. Is this your ship? Alex asked, his voice echoing in the hollow space. Lira shook her head. No. It's a safe house, one of several I've established over the years. The Raath will never find it, not if we keep moving. She moved toward one of the panels, tapping a few symbols on its surface. The screen flickered, displaying a star chart with multiple systems marked in red. Where are we? Alex asked, stepping closer. Lira's eyes were fixed on the chart, her face a mask of concentration. We're on the outskirts of the Raath's territory. It's the only place I can hide for now, but not for long. Alex frowned, sensing the tension in her words. And what happens when they find us? They won't find us here, Lira said firmly, if we keep using the safe houses. But, we can't stay in one place for too long. Alex was about to respond when his ears picked up a faint noise, footsteps. Too light to be the drone, too deliberate to be an animal. He whirled around to find a figure emerging from the shadows in the back of the cave. A man, tall and lean, with short-cropped dark hair and eyes that gleamed with an unsettling calm. He wore a tactical suit that blended in with the cave's dim lighting, his expression unreadable. "Lira," the man said, his voice smooth and cold. "I didn't think you'd be so careless." Lira stiffened, her entire body going rigid. "You're here," she said flatly, her voice suddenly hard. "I should have known." Alex felt a knot tighten in his stomach. "Who is this?" Lyra's gaze never left the man as she answered, her tone sharp. "This is Torin. He's someone I trusted. Or, I thought I did." Torin's lips twisted into a small smile. "How sweet. You've forgotten, haven't you? I was always loyal to my own survival, Lira. And now, here I am, just in time to watch you make the mistake of thinking the Raath would never find you." Alex looked between the two of them, his mind racing. "What's going on here? What do you mean the Raath would find you?" Lyra's face darkened. "Torin is a double agent. He works for the Raath." At her words, Torin chuckled, a low, dangerous sound. "You always were too idealistic, Lira. I was never on your side. I only worked with you to get close to the artifact. And now, I'll deliver you to the Raath in exchange for my own safety." Alex felt his heart drop. He had trusted Lira, had believed in her from the moment he saw her in the cabin. But now, the woman who had seemed so genuine, so desperate to protect Earth, was suddenly a pawn in a much darker game. "You betrayed me," Lira said, her voice barely above a whisper, filled with disbelief. "After everything we've been through?" Torin shrugged nonchalantly. "You've always been so naive, Lira. I knew the moment I met you that you'd never understand how the universe works. It's simple, survival of the fittest. And the Raath will reward me for my loyalty." Alex's mind raced. He couldn't let this happen. He couldn't let Lira be handed over to the Raath. He had no idea how to fight back against an agent like Torin, but something inside him refused to back down. Without thinking, Alex lunged forward, grabbing a metal rod from the nearby table. He swung it at Torin, but Torin dodged effortlessly, his eyes gleaming with amusement. "Please, don't make this harder than it has to be," Torin said, raising his hand. "I'm not here to fight. I'm here to win." Lira moved, faster than Alex could react, her hand shooting out to press a button on a control panel. The cave entrance slammed shut, and a loud, mechanical hum filled the air. A force field shimmered around them, trapping them inside. Torin's eyes widened, but his smirk didn't falter. "You think a little force field will stop me?" "I know it will," Lira said coldly. "This place was never meant to hide from you. It was meant to trap you." In that moment, Alex realized that Lira had known about Torin's betrayal all along. He wasn't the only one who had been fooled. The question now was, what was Lira going to do with him? The showdown. The force field buzzed around them, its blue energy crackling in the air like a thunderstorm waiting to break. Torin, now trapped inside the cave with them, glared at Lira, his fists clenched. "Did you honestly think this was going to stop me?" Torin sneered, his voice low and dangerous. Lira didn't respond. Instead, she stepped forward, her eyes cold and calculating. Alex stood beside her, his body tense, unsure of what to expect. The betrayal had rocked him, but now, he had to focus on surviving, on keeping Lira alive, and the artifact out of Torin's hands. "You don't know what you've done, Torin," Lira said, her voice steady but filled with an edge of sorrow. "You've made the biggest mistake of your life." Torin scoffed. "Big words, Lira. But you forget, I've been playing this game longer than you've been alive. The Raath don't lose. I don't lose." The cave felt smaller now, the air heavy with tension. The hum of the force field was deafening. Alex glanced around, looking for any way out, but the walls were solid, and the only exit was blocked by the shimmering barrier. "Why did you betray me?" Lira asked again, her voice quieter this time. Why betray Earth? Torin's eyes flickered with something dark. It's not about Earth, Lira. It's about survival. I'm not here to play hero. I never was. The Raath promised me power. I'll have it, and you'll be nothing more than a footnote in their history. Alex could feel the heat of the conflict rising. His hands were sweating, and his heart pounded in his chest. This was it. He had no idea how to defeat someone like Torin, but one thing was clear, they couldn't let him leave the cave alive. Torin moved first, his hand reaching for a weapon hidden beneath his jacket. It was a sleek, energy-based rifle, and he aimed it at Lira. His eyes narrowed, calculating his next move. Stay back. Alex shouted, stepping between Torin and Lira, his hands raised in a defensive position. Torin's lips curled into a grin. You think you can stop me? He asked, his voice dripping with amusement. Alex didn't answer. He knew he couldn't stop him, not with strength alone. But there was one thing he had that Torin didn't, the element of surprise. The artifact. Without thinking, Alex grabbed the artifact from Lira's satchel, holding it up to his chest. The glowing lines shimmered, pulsing with strange energy. Torin's expression faltered for a split second. It was all Alex needed. He pressed the artifact's surface. There was a deep hum, like a storm gathering, and the air around them seemed to thicken. The force field flickered, then surged with new energy, expanding outward in waves. Torin's eyes widened, realizing what was happening. No, he shouted, his voice filled with panic. Before he could react, the force field surged with a powerful shockwave, knocking Torin back. His rifle flew from his hands, and he slammed into the wall of the cave, crumpling to the ground. The artifact's energy crackled through the space, filling the cave with a brilliant light. Alex stood there, his heart racing, watching as the force field enveloped Torin. The man tried to get up, but his body spasmed, unable to move. Lira stepped forward, her face hard but filled with resolve. You were always a coward, Torin, she said, her voice carrying no sympathy. You wanted power, but you never understood it. You were just a tool. Torin groaned, his body writhing against the energy. This isn't over, Lira. The Raath will find you. They'll. Lira raised her hand, and with a flick of her wrist, the artifact's energy pulsed again. Torin went limp, his body falling still against the force field. Alex exhaled sharply, his mind racing. Had they won? Had they really stopped him? Lira turned to him, her expression unreadable. You were brave, she said quietly, her eyes softening for a moment. But this isn't over. We've only delayed the inevitable. Alex felt a chill settle in his bones. What do you mean? Lira walked to the control panel, tapping the screen with quick, practiced movements. The star chart flickered to life again, and Alex saw something that made his stomach drop, Raath ships, heading toward Earth. Raath ships are on their way, she said, her voice grim. They've already tracked us here. They'll be here within hours. We don't have time to waste. Alex's mind spun. So what now? What do we do? Lira looked at him, her eyes dark with determination. We fight. We stop them before they can reach Earth. We have to destroy their fleet. And I know how. Alex's heart pounded in his chest. How? Lira turned the artifact in her hand, her fingers tracing the glowing lines. The artifact, it's a weapon. But it's also the key. I can use it to take down their ships. But I need you with me. We need to reach the Raath command ship. And how do we do that? We don't, Lira said, her voice steady. They come to us. The final stand. The air was thick with tension as Alex and Lira made their way through the dark, rocky passages beneath the mountain. The once quiet cave now felt like the calm before a storm, the only sound their footsteps echoing against the walls. Above them, the Raath fleet was descending rapidly, their ships blocking out the sky. In the distance, the faintest hum signaled the approach of their advanced weaponry, a reminder of the unimaginable power they wielded. "We don't have much time," Lira said, her voice cutting through the silence, sharper than ever. "We need to reach the surface and activate the artifact's full power before they get any closer." Alex felt a chill in his chest. The artifact was their last hope, but Lira had said it was unstable, dangerous even. He still wasn't entirely sure what it was capable of, but it was the only weapon they had left. "What if we can't do it?" Alex asked, a hint of doubt creeping into his voice. "What if the Raath have more firepower than we can handle?" Lira shot him a glance, her expression hardening. "Then Earth falls, and so do we. There's no turning back now." They emerged from the cave into the night, the stars above hidden by the growing cloud of Raath ships overhead. The ground trembled beneath them as the massive fleet descended, casting shadows over the landscape. "Keep moving," Lira said, pulling Alex forward. "The artifact can disrupt their shields, but only if we're close enough." They ran, the wind whipping through the trees, the night feeling colder and darker with each passing second. Alex's heart raced, not from the physical exertion, but from the weight of what they were about to do. They were about to face an enemy far more powerful than they could have imagined, with only a glowing relic as their weapon. Ahead of them, a clearing opened up at the edge of a cliff. The view from the top was breathtaking, a sharp drop to the valley below, the mountain ranges stretching out for miles. But that beauty was short-lived. The fleet was close, the ships now visible, looming like dark gods in the sky. They hovered just above the treetops, massive and imposing. Lira didn't hesitate. She stepped into the center of the clearing, raising the artifact high above her head. The ground beneath them seemed to pulse as the artifact's energy surged to life, casting a blinding light. The symbols on its surface flared brightly, lighting up the entire clearing like a beacon. Alex shielded his eyes from the intense glow. "Lira, what are you doing?" "Waiting," she said simply. "For them to make the first move." Alex's stomach churned as the ships above began to descend, the sound of their engines deafening now. Each ship's weapons glowed a deadly red, and Alex knew they wouldn't hesitate to fire. Suddenly, a voice crackled through the air, loud and distorted. It was not a human voice, Alex knew that much immediately. "Foolish humans," the voice said, booming from the largest ship. "You think you can stop us? You think that artifact can save you?" Alex clenched his fists, his mind racing. This was it. There was no turning back. It was do or die. Lira didn't flinch. She stood firm, the artifact pulsing with growing intensity. "You've underestimated humanity before. And you'll do so again. We've fought to the very edge of extinction. But now, we fight to protect everything we've built." The ships above stopped their descent, hanging ominously in the sky. The largest ship, a massive warship, opened fire with its main weapon, a beam of concentrated energy that shot toward them with unrelenting speed. "Now, Alex!" Lira shouted. Alex didn't question her. He ran to her side, just as the energy beam sped toward them. With one final surge, Lira slammed her palm into the artifact. The ground shook violently as the energy within the artifact exploded outward in a shockwave. The beam from the warship collided with the wave of energy, and for a moment, it seemed like time itself stopped. The sky flashed white with light as the two forces clashed, the Raatha's weapon struggling against the power of the artifact. Then, with a deafening roar, the beam shattered, dissipating into the air as the artifact's power surged forward. The Raath ship shuddered, its shields failing as the shockwave swept through its systems. Sparks flew from the ship's engines, and it began to tilt dangerously, unable to maintain altitude. But that was only the beginning. With the same burst of energy, Lira sent waves of the artifact's power cascading through the rest of the Raath fleet. One by one, the ships began to falter. Some exploded in mid-air, their debris falling to the ground in burning pieces. Others veered off course, unable to control their trajectory as their power systems failed. The sky was a chaotic battlefield now, the Raath's once imposing fleet reduced to nothing but wreckage. But even as the fleet crumbled, a massive figure appeared in the center of the sky. The command ship. The one Lira had warned him about. It was not like the others, it was enormous, with towering weapons mounted on every side. A ship that would require more than just the artifact's energy to destroy. Alex's pulse quickened. Lira, we can't do this alone. We need help. No, Lira said, her voice filled with unshakable resolve. This is our fight, Alex. Humanity's fight. The command ship fired, its weapons bright with deadly intent. But just as the first blast sped toward them, Lira raised the artifact again. The energy expanded, forming a barrier around them. The beam slammed into the shield, rippling across its surface like water disturbed by a stone. Lira closed her eyes, focusing all her energy on the artifact, the symbol of a power she barely understood but had no choice but to control. The final blast was coming. The Raath's command ship had one last trick up its sleeve. But Lira would not let them win. She pressed her hand to the artifact, and in that moment, the light that erupted from it was brighter than the sun itself. The energy was pure, raw, and full of potential that surged toward the heart of the command ship, piercing its core. With a deafening explosion, the command ship disintegrated into a cloud of fire and debris, the last of the Raath fleet falling from the sky. The air was still once more. The world had been saved. Alex stood there, staring up at the empty sky, unable to believe what had just happened. Lira lowered the artifact, her expression exhausted but triumphant. We did it, Alex said softly, the weight of the moment settling over him. Lira smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting both relief and sorrow. No, Alex. We did it. Humanity did it. The battle was over. But the war was far from won. The universe was vast, and the story of humanity, of survival, was just beginning.